Okay, I want you to imagine something with me for a second. It's a Tuesday morning. Your alarm goes off at 6:45 a.m. You roll over, grab your phone, and before your eyes even fully adjust to the light, you see a notification. A deposit hit your account, $1,250. You didn't work for it yesterday. You didn't work for it last week. You didn't send an invoice. You didn't clock in. It just appeared because something you built months or even years ago is still generating cash while you slept. Now, here's the part nobody talks about. You put your phone down, you make your coffee, and for the first time in maybe your entire adult life, you don't feel that low-grade hum of financial anxiety sitting in the back of your skull. You know the one, that constant background noise that says, you're one bad month away from everything falling apart. Yeah, that noise, at $15,000 a month in passive income, it finally goes quiet. But, and this is important, what replaces it is not what you think. It's not champagne and Lamborghinis and sitting on a beach doing nothing. What actually happens when you cross the $15,000 per month threshold in passive income is so much stranger, so much more psychologically complex, and honestly, so much more useful to understand than any of those fantasy scenarios people sell you online. And that's exactly what we're breaking down today. My name is Billy, and I spend way too much time thinking about what passive income actually does to people's lives, their psychology, and their decision making. If you're someone who's been grinding to build income streams, but you're still stuck wondering whether any of this is actually going to change how your life feels on a day-to-day basis, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because look, there are about 10,000 videos on YouTube that will tell you how to build passive income, and a lot of them are genuinely good. But almost nobody talks about what happens to you internally, financially, psychologically, once you actually get there. And I think that's a massive blind spot because understanding the destination changes how you build the path. It changes what you prioritize, and honestly, it might change whether you even want what you think you want. So let's get into it. All right, first things first, let's just ground ourselves in reality for a moment because I think a lot of people hear $15,000 a month in passive income and they either think that's an impossible fantasy number or they think that's a modest goal, and both of those reactions are kind of wrong. Here's the thing, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics data updated through early 2025, the median household income in the United States is right around $80,610 per year. That's about $6,717 per month before taxes. After federal and state taxes, depending on where you live, the average household is taking home somewhere between $4,800 and $5,500 a month. Now, $15,000 per month in passive income is $180,000 per year. That puts you by yourself with no active employment in roughly the top 10 to 12% of all household earners in the country. And here's the kicker. If this income is structured correctly through long-term capital gains, qualified dividends, real estate depreciation, or certain business structures, your effective tax rate can be dramatically lower than someone earning $180,000 at a W-2 job. Let me show you what I mean with actual numbers. A W-2 employee earning $180,000 in 2025 is going to pay roughly $33,000 to $38,000 in federal income tax alone, depending on deductions. Add in state taxes if you're in California or New York, and you could be looking at $45,000 plus going straight to the government. That leaves you with maybe $135,000 after taxes. Still great, but you worked 2,000 plus hours for it. Now, compare that to someone earning $15,000 a month passively through, say, a combination of dividend income, rental properties, and a digital product business. If $60,000 of that comes from qualified dividends taxed at the long-term capital gains rate of 15%, $70,000 comes from rental income that's partially offset by depreciation, and $50,000 comes from a business structured as an S Corp with reasonable salary distributions. Your effective tax rate could land somewhere between 14 and 19%. That means instead of keeping $135,000, you're keeping $146,000 to $155,000, and you didn't trade your time for any of it. Now you might be thinking, Bob, Billy, that's great math, but who actually has all three of those income streams running at the same time? And the answer is more people than you'd think. A 2025 Bankrate survey found that approximately 36% of Americans now report having some form of side income, and among those earning over $150,000 total, Nearly 44% have at least two distinct passive or semi-passive income sources. This isn't fringe behavior anymore. This is becoming the financial playbook for the upper middle class. But here's what most people don't realize. The math is actually the easy part. The hard part, the part nobody prepares you for, is what happens between your ears once the money starts flowing without your direct involvement. So let me tell you about something that happened to a guy I know. We'll call him Marcus. Marcus spent 7 years building up a rental property portfolio. Started with a duplex he house hacked in 2019. By early 2024, he had 8 units generating a combined $14,800 per month in net rental income after mortgages, property management, maintenance reserves, everything. Basically, $15,000 a month, give or take. And you know what Marcus told me? He said, Billy, I thought I'd feel free. Instead, I feel guilty. This man built something incredible over 7 years, took risks, managed contractors, dealt with tenants at 2 a.m. And when it finally started working, his first dominant emotion was guilt. Here's why. And this is where it gets really interesting. Most of us have been psychologically conditioned since childhood to tie our self-worth to our productivity. Your parents told you to work hard, school rewarded effort, your boss promoted the person who stayed latest. Society has drilled into you this equation. Hard work equals money equals value as a human being. So when money starts showing up without the hard work part, your brain short circuits. It doesn't know where to file this. You start questioning whether you deserve it. You start wondering if you're being lazy. You look at your friends grinding 60-hour weeks and you feel like a fraud. A 2025 study published in the Journal of Financial Psychology, yes, that's a real journal, found that 61% of individuals who achieved financial independence before age 50 reported experiencing what researchers called productivity guilt within the first 18 months. 61%. That's not a small number. That's the majority. And here's the trap. That guilt doesn't push you to relax and enjoy your life. It pushes you to go find more work, to start another project, to fill every hour with something that feels productive so you can justify the income you're already earning passively. And suddenly, you're right back on the hamster wheel. Not because you need the money, but because you need the psychological permission to feel okay about having it. Marcus did this, hit $15,000 a month, and immediately started a consulting business on top of it. Not because he needed the revenue, because he needed to feel busy. It took him almost a year to recognize the pattern and start unpacking it. So change number 1 when you hit $15,000 in passive income. You don't feel free. You feel confused. And dealing with that confusion is the first real challenge of financial independence. Okay, change number 2. And this one is actually really practical. When you're earning $5,000 or $6,000 a month from a job, and that's your only income, your relationship with risk is very specific. You're terrified of it. You won't invest in yourself. You won't leave the job you hate. You won't start the business. You won't even ask for a raise because what if they say no? What if they get annoyed? What if it costs you the position? Every financial decision is filtered through fear because every dollar matters and there's no backup plan. But here's what happens at $15,000 a month in passive income. Look, your survival is no longer on the line. Your rent is covered, your food is covered, your kids' school is covered, your car payment is covered, and there's still $7,000 or $8,000 left over every single month that's just accumulating. And when survival is off the table, risk stops feeling like risk. It starts feeling like opportunity. This is where people at the $15,000 level start making moves that look crazy to everyone around them, but are actually incredibly rational. They leave 6-figure jobs to pursue work they actually care about. They invest $50,000 into a startup idea that might fail. They buy a property in a market nobody else is looking at. They take 6 months off to write a book or travel or just think. And here's the data on this. According to a 2025 Fidelity Investments Behavioral Finance Report, individuals with passive income exceeding $10,000 per month were 3.4 times more likely to make what they classified as asymmetric bets. Investments where the downside is limited, but the upside is potentially enormous. Things like angel investing, starting businesses in emerging markets, or buying distressed assets. And the reason is purely mathematical once you think about it. If you have $15,000 a month coming in passively and you risk $50,000 on a venture that fails, you've lost about 3.5 months of income. That stings, but it doesn't threaten your existence. You'll regenerate that money whether you do anything or not. Compare that to someone living on $6,000 a month from a job. That same $50,000 loss is 8 months of pre-tax income. It's potentially catastrophic. It might mean missing mortgage payments or draining an emergency fund. Same dollar amount, completely different impact. And that asymmetry is what allows people at the $15,000 level to take the kinds of swings that build real generational wealth. This is the flywheel effect of passive income that nobody explains to you. The money doesn't just compound financially, it compounds your ability to take intelligent risks. Change number 3, and honestly, this is the one that catches people the most off guard. Your social circle starts to feel wrong. Now, I want to be careful with how I say this because I'm not talking about becoming some elitist jerk who looks down on people. That's not it at all. What I'm talking about is a very specific and very uncomfortable experience that almost everyone at this level goes through. Here's the thing. When you hit $15,000 a month in passive income, your daily concerns shift. You're no longer stressed about paying bills. You're thinking about asset allocation, tax optimization, estate planning, maybe impact investing. You're thinking about how to structure your time for maximum fulfillment rather than maximum survival. And when you sit down with your friends who are still in the grind, still stressed about rent going up, still angry about their boss, still living paycheck to paycheck, you can't relate the same way anymore. And they can't relate to you. You can't complain about money because you'd sound tone deaf. You can't share your wins because it feels like bragging. You can't ask for advice because the problems you're dealing with are problems most people would love to have. And so you just go quiet. You nod along, you keep your mouth shut, and slowly a gap forms. A 2025 survey by WealthX found that 58% of high net worth individuals reported feeling socially isolated despite having active social lives, not because they didn't have people around them, but because they felt they couldn't be authentic about their financial reality with the people they were closest to. And this is where a lot of people at the $15,000 level do one of two things. Either they start seeking out communities of people at similar financial levels, masterminds, investor groups, entrepreneurial networks, or they start downplaying their success so aggressively that they create a false persona just to fit in with their existing circle. Neither one feels great, honestly, but the first option is at least constructive. The second one just breeds resentment over time. So if you're building toward this level, here's my genuine advice. Start cultivating relationships with people who are where you want to be before you get there. Not to be transactional, not to network, but because when you arrive at $15,000 a month, you're going to need people in your life who understand what you're going through without you having to apologize for it. All right, change number 4, and this one is going to sound counterintuitive, so stay with me. When you hit $15,000 in monthly passive income, you actually start spending less money on stuff, not more, less. Now, you might be thinking, Billy, that makes no sense. More money means more spending. That's just basic human behavior. And I'd agree with you if we were talking about earned income, but passive income is psychologically different, and here's why. When you earn money actively, you trade your time, your energy, your expertise. There's an emotional release valve that opens. You feel like you earned the right to reward yourself. You worked 50 hours this week, so you deserve that nice dinner. You closed the big deal, so you deserve the new watch. Spending becomes the payoff for suffering. But passive income doesn't come with suffering attached. There's no grind to reward. There's no stressful week to decompress from. And without that emotional trigger, the urge to spend as a form of self-reward dramatically decreases. A 2025 study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that individuals whose primary income was passive spent, on average, 22% less on discretionary purchases than individuals with the same total income earned actively. 22% on the same income level. And here's what actually happens instead. People at the $15,000 passive income level start spending money on 3 things: time, health, and experiences. They hire help around the house. Not because they're lazy, but because they've done the math and their time is worth more than the $150 it costs to have someone clean. They invest in better food, gym memberships, personal trainers, preventative health care, and they travel, but not luxury travel for the Instagram photo. Intentional travel, long stays in places that interest them, learning-focused experiences, the McMansion, the sports car, the designer wardrobe. That stuff fades fast when you're not trying to signal success to other people. And when your income isn't tied to a job title or a company, you stop needing external symbols to validate your worth. This is what I mean when I say the psychology of $15,000 in passive income is more important than the math. The math changes your bank account. The psychology changes your entire value system. Okay, change number 5. And look, this is the one that breaks people if they're not ready for it. You suddenly have too much time and you have no idea what to do with it. This sounds like a luxury problem, and it is, but it's also a real problem that creates real consequences: depression, aimlessness, a complete loss of identity. Here's the thing about a regular job: it gives you structure. You wake up, you go to work, you come home, you have the evening free, you go to bed, repeat. You might hate the structure, but it organizes your life. It gives your days shape, it gives your weeks rhythm. At $15,000 a month in passive income, that structure evaporates. And most people within the first 3 to 6 months go through what I can only describe as an existential free fall. You wake up and nobody needs you anywhere. There are no meetings, no deadlines. No one's going to notice or care if you stay in bed until noon. And at first that sounds like paradise, but by week 3 it starts feeling like purgatory. Research from the Stanford Center on Longevity, published in early 2026, found that retirees and financially independent individuals who lacked structured daily routines were 2.7 times more likely to report symptoms of depression within the first year of leaving traditional employment. And here's the critical detail: income level didn't protect against this. People earning $20,000 or $30,000 a month passively were just as vulnerable as those earning $5,000 if they didn't have a sense of purpose built into their days. This is why I always tell people, before you hit your passive income goal, figure out what you're running toward, not just what you're running from. Because escaping a job you hate is a great motivator. But once you've escaped, if there's nothing on the other side, you'll find yourself in a very expensive existential crisis. The people who thrive at the $15,000 level are the ones who use their time abundance strategically. They build new skills, they mentor others, they get deeply involved in their communities, they create art or build things or solve problems that fascinate them. They treat their time like an asset, arguably their most valuable one, and they invest it with intention. And honestly, many of them build new income streams, not because they need the money, because the process of building something gives them the purpose and structure that humans genuinely need. All right, so we've covered the 5 major changes that happen when you hit $15,000 in passive income: the identity crisis, the risk inversion, the social recalibration, the spending paradox, and the time abundance problem. Now, let me give you something concrete, because I don't want this to be one of those videos where you feel inspired for 20 minutes and then go right back to scrolling. I want you to actually do something with this information. Here's a step-by-step framework, and I'm going to work backwards from $15,000 because I think that's more useful than starting from zero. Step 1, choose your income architecture. $15,000 a month can come from a lot of different places, but broadly, you're looking at 3 categories: investment income, real estate income, and business income. Investment income at $15,000 per month means you need $180,000 per year. At a 4% dividend yield, that requires a portfolio of $4.5 million. At a 6% yield with higher risk dividend stocks or covered call strategies, you need $3 million. That's achievable, but it requires significant capital. Real estate income at $15,000 per month net is more accessible for most people. If each rental unit generates $500 per month in net cash flow after all expenses, you need 30 units. If each generates $1,000 net, you need 15 units. If you're in markets where $1,500 per unit net is possible, you need 10 units. This takes time, but the leverage available in real estate makes it one of the fastest paths. Business income at $15,000 per month can come from digital products, courses, licensing, royalties, or a business with systems and employees that runs without your daily involvement. This has the highest upside and the lowest capital requirement, but it also has the steepest learning curve and the highest failure rate. Most people who hit $15,000 use a combination, maybe $5,000 from dividends, $6,000 from rental properties, and $4,000 from a semi-passive online business. Diversification across income types isn't just smart, it's what makes the number sustainable. Step 2, build the psychological infrastructure. Before you hit $15,000, start doing the inner work. And I know that sounds soft, but hear me out. Start defining your identity identity outside of your job title right now? What do you care about? What would you do if money were irrelevant? Who would you spend your time with? What problems would you solve? Start building a community of people who think about money the way you want to think about money. Join an investing group. Find a real estate meetup. Get into a mastermind. Do this before you need it. And start practicing unstructured time. Take a Saturday where you have absolutely nothing planned and see how you handle it. If you immediately feel anxious and reach for your phone or your to-do list, that's data. That's telling you that you're going to struggle with time abundance if you don't address it. Step 3, create your transition plan. This is where most people mess up. They think of passive income as a light switch. One day you don't have it, the next day you do. But in reality, the transition from active to passive income should be gradual and deliberate. Here's what I recommend. When your passive income hits 25% of your living expenses, start reducing your active work hours if possible. When it hits 50%, consider shifting to part-time or contract work. When it hits 75%, you should have enough runway to take a 3 to 6 month sabbatical and test what full financial independence actually feels like. And when it hits 100% plus a 25% buffer for unexpected expenses and market fluctuations, that's when you can confidently step away from active income if you choose to. That 25% buffer is critical, by the way. Passive income isn't perfectly passive. Tenants leave, dividends get cut, algorithms change, markets dip. In 2025 alone, we saw several major companies reduce or pause their dividend in response to shifting economic conditions. If your passive income was running at exactly 100% of your expenses with zero margin, a single disruption could send you scrambling back to active work. Step 4, protect the machine. Once you've built $15,000 a month in passive income, your number one job is not to grow it. It's to protect it. This means proper insurance on your properties, asset protection through LLCs or trusts, an emergency fund that covers 6 to 12 months of personal expenses separate from your business reserves, estate planning even if you're young, and ongoing financial education so you can spot risks before they become problems. I'll say something controversial here. At $15,000 a month, the cost of a good CPA, a good financial advisor, and a good attorney is not an expense. It's insurance on your entire financial future. If you're spending $500 to $1,000 a month on professional guidance, and that guidance prevents a single $50,000 mistake over the next 5 years, you've made the best investment of your life. All right, one more thing before we wrap up, and this might be the most important insight in this entire video. Here's what most people don't realize about hitting $15,000 a month in passive income. The biggest change isn't financial, it's not psychological, it's philosophical. When money is no longer the primary driver of your decisions, you're forced to confront a question that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. What actually matters to me? Not what society tells you should matter. Not what your parents wanted for you. Not what looks impressive on social media. What actually, genuinely, deeply matters to you. And that question is terrifying because most people don't have a good answer. They've been so busy surviving, so busy chasing the next paycheck, so busy trying to keep up with the expectations of everyone around them that they never stop to ask themselves what they actually want. At $15,000 a month, you can't hide from this question anymore. The money excuse is gone. I'd love to travel, but I can't afford it. Gone. I'd start that project, but I don't have time. Gone. I'd leave this situation, but I'm financially trapped. Gone. Every barrier you've been hiding behind disappears, and you're left standing face to face with your own choices. Pure, unfiltered, fully funded choices. And I won't lie to you, that's the most liberating and the most terrifying moment of the entire journey. The people who handle it well are the ones who did the work beforehand, who thought deeply about their values, who built relationships that nourish them, who developed interests and passions outside of making money. They're the ones who walk into $15,000 a month and use it as a launch pad for a genuinely extraordinary life. The people who handle it poorly are the ones who thought the money was the destination, who assumed that reaching the number would automatically make everything feel perfect. They're the ones who hit $15,000 and find themselves standing in a beautiful house with a full bank account feeling absolutely nothing. Don't be the second person. Start building the life you want to live now. Use the pursuit of passive income as a catalyst for personal growth, not a substitute for it. Look, I made this video because I think the financial education space does a great job of teaching you how to make money and a terrible job of teaching you what money does to you once you have it. And I genuinely believe that understanding the psychological, social, and philosophical changes that come with financial independence is just as important as understanding compound interest or cap rates. If you're on the path to $15,000 a month, whether you're at zero right now or you're at $5,000 or you're at $12,000 and almost there, I want you to know two things. One, it's worth it. Every uncomfortable change I described today is infinitely better than the alternative of spending your entire life financially dependent on a system that doesn't care about you. And two, it's not what you think. It's harder in ways you don't expect and better in ways you can't imagine. But if you prepare for both, you'll be one of the few people who actually builds wealth and a life worth living. If this video changed how you think about passive income, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, drop a comment below telling me where you are on your journey. I read every single one. And share this with someone who needs to hear it because this is the kind of conversation that doesn't happen enough. I'll see you in the next one.